You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ole Miss destroys Oklahoma in the second half, and I cannot state that enough. They utterly destroyed. If they'd have played the full game like that, it would have been fine. We would have all been happy, but you have to juxtapose that with the first half being absolutely terrible. But if Ole Miss plays like they did in the second half of this game, they're not losing this season. If they play like they did in the first half this season, they're going to lose 2 games. That's kind of where we are, but I'm going to go under the understanding that Ole Miss kind of figured something out. They played clean. They quit helping Oklahoma. Oklahoma only scored their first touchdown because they 3 15-yard penalties, and they only scored the second one because of momentum generated from a 4th down stop. Once Ole Miss quit helping Oklahoma, Oklahoma could do nothing. Jaxson Dart played better. Ole Miss needs some help in the running game, but the defense, 9 sacks. Suntarine Perkins in this game, 3 sacks, 5 tackles for loss. He is becoming the monster that we all hoped that he would become. And at the end of the game, Oklahoma just couldn't do anything. Every time they dropped back to pass, the defense was just hunting. They were just working. They needed that multi-score lead in the game, and Ole Miss was able to pull that off. And doing that, they were pretty handy in this game. And by the end of the game, they looked pretty good. And all week I said, hey, the margin of victory in this game doesn't matter. And, you know, some people said Ole Miss needs to blow it out. No, I don't. Just win the game. If Ole Miss wins the games, they're going to go to the playoffs. This team that played in the second half of the game is playoff worthy, period. Just is. The team that played in the first half is Liberty Bowl worthy, period. Just is. That is the juxtaposition of what Ole Miss football is in at the moment. And we'll see exactly how that goes. Now, let's look at the stats real quick of how this game went. Ole Miss did a really good job offensively. Jaxson Dart was 22 of 30, 311 yards and a touchdown. He would have had more, but pressure got to him on a play downfield. The Ole Miss did a decent job protecting. The offensive line did fine. Oklahoma's defense is legit. Oklahoma's defense is real, and they are really good at run defense, and Brent Venables is not famous for no reason. Him stopping Ole Miss, it was going to be tough sledding. That's one of the reasons I was looking forward to this game for Jaxson Dart, was because this defense was so good. Jaxson Dart kind of got right. Now, if you want to look at some discouraging news, Ole Miss ran the ball 31 times for 69 yards with a long of that Henry Parrish 9-yard touchdown run. Ole Miss had trouble running the football in Oklahoma. They were a little bit over 2 yards per carry. Oklahoma kind of managed that. That's one of the reasons going for that 4th down seems so silly. If Ole Miss hits that, they hit the field goal, they score 30 points against this Oklahoma defense that is so good, period. Receiving, Caden Prieskorn and Jordan Watkins were the leaders with Caden Lee. Daquan Wright was involved. Listen, this game plan in this game was about perfect. Honestly, it was really about perfect. It was short passes to long passes. It was take shots where you can later on, but whenever you look at it, they were able to get Jaxson Dart into a rhythm. He looked more like himself. This offense was very quarterback friendly again all of a sudden. I think that what Ole Miss did with the receivers and the short, long passing and all of that, it helped the offensive line, it helped the receivers, and it helped Jaxson Dart. And Ole Miss's offense was a lot better because of it. I think this game plan was about perfect, period. It just was. And if Ole Miss continues to do that for the rest of the year, they are going to be fine. Now, defensively, the leading tackler was Chris Paul. He had 2 tackles for loss, 12 overall. It was a situation. He also fumbled the ball. He had a roughing the passer and a late hit out of bounds. So it was kind of a, hey, quit helping them out, but you're making plays. Suntarine Perkins, 11 tackles, 3 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, another SEC player of the week level performance. TJ Daugherty, 10 tackles on the day. John Saunders had 9. He played fantastic in that slot corner position. And when you look at other people that had sacks in the game, J.J. Pegues had 2. Princely Umanmielen had 2. Akello Stone had 1. Jared Ivey had 1. Ole Miss had 9 overall and 15 tackles for loss. That's probably good enough to put them back in the lead in tackles for loss if we're just going to be honest about it. And their sack numbers are not going to hurt as well. They're going to be pretty high up on the list. The defensive line did exactly what I expected this defensive line to do. And this defensive line completely dominated this offensive line. By the end, whenever Ole Miss was helping Oklahoma in the first half, all of a sudden it was hard for the defensive line to get home. And once they stopped doing that, they were able to establish control. You want to look at team stats in this game. First downs, OU had 24. They converted third downs. They stayed ahead of the chains for the majority of the day. They had a lot of 3rd and 3s, 3rd and 2s. And because of that, they were able to convert a lot of third downs. But you couldn't drive that all the way down the field because doing that, it was problematic. Oklahoma had a couple of passes on Ole Miss in the game in the first and second quarter, was able to take the lead. They had 329 total yards, 182 yards passing. Once they had to throw the ball downfield, once Ole Miss got up by 2 scores, it was essentially over. They had no chance to block that defensive line. And rushing the ball, they had 147 yards. I told y'all on the podcast this week that look for Oklahoma to establish the identity, at least culturally, to run the football. Now, they ran for 2.9 yards per rush, but they ran the ball 50 times for 147 yards. And this is with sack yardage. So that's pretty impressive for what's going on. But everybody needs to remember, we talked about this. Oklahoma is a team that had 70% 4- and 5-star recruits on their roster. This was a talented team. This was a team that it wasn't working for whatever reason, and it's not working for whatever reason, but this is a talented team. And Ole Miss's defense was able to work a little bit. Once they figured out, they used the tempo at the beginning of the game on Ole Miss that caught them off guard for whatever reason the first half. We'll have to talk about that in the second segment. That first half was rough for Ole Miss football. It just was. It was really rough. And Ole Miss, using that, they were able to establish themselves later on in the game. Once they figured out the tempo and all of that stuff, and they needed halftime to do it, they were pretty much in control of the game. Ole Miss had 7 penalties for 94 yards. Many of them, it felt like, were the 15-yard variety. So that was interesting. Oklahoma led time of possession with 33 minutes. Ole Miss had it for 26. But at the end of the game, Ole Miss's defense was able to control what was going on, the proceedings of it. So we'll see exactly how that goes for Ole Miss and their roster going into their next week. I tried to tell everybody during the week that Ole Miss was not the team that we expected them to be going into this season. Not the team that I expected them to be. Everybody expected them to be this high-flying offensive team because it's coached by Lane Kiffin. It was quarterbacked by Jaxson Dart. And all of these players came in skill-wise on the offense. Everybody expected this team to be an offensive juggernaut. That wasn't the case. That isn't the case. This is a defensive team. And Ole Miss is going through a growing pain right now of figuring out what to do with this defensive team. In the first half against Oklahoma, you have a situation to where you go for it on 4th down instead of taking points, which I've said over and over again, you should never do with this offense. They're converting less than 50% on 4th down. It's not worth it as a risk and reward proposition. They had a chance to make this game 20-7 at the end of the first half, and Ole Miss was probably down 14-10 after going for it well down in the red zone. Ole Miss forced a fumble. They were getting ready to take over the game. In the second quarter, they decided to go for it, flip the momentum. Oklahoma was able to drive the field on that momentum and score a touchdown. Oklahoma had 2 drives in this game. One was a benefit of several 15-yard penalties, like a face mask, a roughing the passer, those penalties. It wasn't the standard pass interference penalties that we might be used to, but those penalties were helping Oklahoma go down the field because Oklahoma was not scoring Ole Miss in this game without help. You had to help Oklahoma to do it, whether it was by an energy burst or an energy down. Oklahoma drove the field after the long stoppage in the play. I saw the I guess the team doctor or whoever being escorted off the field, that was the MT thing, that they had a stoppage in play for several minutes that basically sucked the life out of the stadium. Now, I'm not saying anything about the event or whatever. I'm just saying that happened. And that energy burst kind of gave Oklahoma a little bit of a burst going into the game. Now, later on in that drive is where the Ole Miss defensive line really started coming alive to where there was just no chance for Oklahoma to drop back and throw the football. But we'll talk about that in just a second. Stick around while we talk about that first half of the game, looking at the season later on in the year, the next 4 games, and including an increasingly important trip to Fayetteville next Saturday. Stick around for that. All right. I did not have my ad reads up. Just a second. The biggest advantage, let's see, the sports fans if you haven't tried Prize Picks, now is the time. Prize Picks is the best way to get real money on sports action in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. It's fast, easy, and fun, and you'll have all of your picks locked in within 60 seconds. Right now, you can win up to 100 times your money just by nailing 4 correct picks. And don't worry, if one of your picks do not hit, thanks to FlexPay, you can still cash out and double your money. What makes Prize Picks even better is their injury insurance policy. If one of your players leaves in the first half and doesn't return, your lineup stays live. So no more ruined picks because of unexpected injuries. So sign up today at Prize Picks and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly when you pay for just $5. That's right. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So what are you waiting for? Run your game on Prize Picks and turn your sports knowledge into real cash today. Have you ever heard of the South's favorite pickle? Of course, I'm talking about Stewart's Cajun Dill Pickles. If you don't like pickles, it's probably because you haven't tried these yet. These pickles are so fresh and crunchy with just the right amount of Cajun kick to keep you coming back for more. They're not just delicious, they're also handmade by a family-owned company on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, so every bite is packed with that authentic Southern flavor. But Stewart's doesn't stop at just pickles. They've got pickled green beans, okras, carrots, and asparagus too. They're perfect for spicing up your snack game. You can find these amazing products at Rouse's, Sullivan's, Corner Market in Hattiesburg, and even some Winn-Dixie's along the Gulf Coast. Or if you prefer shopping online, head to thepickledstore.com. Make sure to give them a like and follow them on Facebook and Instagram. And when you shop local and try these pickles, I guarantee you will not be disappointed. Stewart's Cajun Dill Pickles, the South's favorite pickle. All right, so the first half of that game was honestly pretty atrocious. It was bad. It was consistently bad. And everybody was wondering and everybody was worried about how it looked. The offense didn't look right. The defense was giving up first downs. You decided to go for it and doing all of that stuff. All of the things that we honestly associate with the Lane Kiffin football team, Ole Miss was doing. Going forward on fourth down, all of the stuff that was the identity of this football team they were doing. But the problem is, in this football team, this is a defensive-led football team. We have talked about that, honestly, for about 3 weeks now, if we're going to be real about it. We talked about the need to establish 12 personnel on the field, and I think 12 personnel was a game changer today. I think Ole Miss should continue to use that even after Trey Harris gets back. I think Daquan Wright and Caden Prescorn, they're really good. Daquan Wright was a drop away from a really big gain for a first down, and this thing being completely different. But when you look at this team, this is a defensive team. In the first half, they were still not protecting the defense. They're still assuming the defense is going to be able to handle the momentum swings and things that happen. Ole Miss handling momentum with this defense, they're going to be able to control more games than they don't, period. They are that good. They're going to give up some yards. They're going to give up some first downs, but they're not going to let you score a rushing touchdown because they've only let one rushing touchdown happen through 8 games. Through 6 and 2, one team was scored on a rushing touchdown, and that was Kentucky in a play they fumbled into the end zone. This defense is really good. And because of that, I've been saying that this team needed to play to their strengths. And in the second half of that game, they started doing that. They started slowing it down a little bit. High percentage passes, short passes, use the tight end, use the players in the middle of the field where you can, keep that clock going, have touchdown drives that last 3 or 4 minutes as opposed to 54 seconds. Your big explosive plays are going to happen. All of this happened with the clock still running and protecting that defense, and they can still do it. I still want that time of possession number to go up, but Ole Miss is going to need to figure out how to run the football against good defenses. Against Arkansas, against Georgia, Ole Miss needs to figure out how to run the football a little bit. I'm not talking about running the ball for 300 yards or anything like that. I'm talking about running the ball for 90 yards to where it's just kind of stable, to where at least the defense has to think about it. That is where this team is at the moment. They're obviously not running the ball extremely well, but they are starting to throw the ball extremely well. Jaxson Dart got into the rhythm that we are used to Jaxson Dart getting into. 22 or 30, and he completed probably somewhere around the neighborhood of 14 of his last 16 passes or something like that against a pretty good defense. And he just missed a touchdown as well on a third down late in the game. Ole Miss is kind of where they need to be. There's going to be a lot of these 26-14 type games in Ole Miss's future. If Ole Miss can play clean the rest of the year, that's the biggest rivalry in sports right now. And that is the determining factor for everything. Play clean. If Ole Miss can do that and not beat themselves like they have already 2 times this season, they are going to be okay. They're going to win a lot of games. They are going to do this exactly what you want them to do. Their playoff odds went up. They are still in the playoff talk. Now, winning the game against Arkansas, that's a big deal, and that's setting up a massive clash against the Georgia Bulldogs if they can pull that off. Arkansas just completely boat raced Mississippi State today. But if you can go up to Fayetteville and get a win in a place that Ole Miss hasn't won since 2008, it's going to be a very difficult game. You could be in a position to set up all of your dreams this season and everything be right there in front of you. It's all there for the taking. Anyway, when we come back, we're going to get into the comment section and talk about what's going on. Stick around. Hey, NFL fans, you can start your season off with a big return on FanDuel as America's #1 sports book. Ole Miss was favored by 20.5 points, and they would have probably covered against the Oklahoma Sooners, despite the over-under being at just 48.5 right now. They were predicting a 34-14 level score. It was pretty close to that. I think if Ole Miss played clean, they would have done that. But when you get a hunch in the middle of any of your betting games, check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. All right, we're going to get into the comment section a little bit. I'm excited. Remember, if you comment, please put down where you're commenting from so I know what that is and so everybody else knows what you're talking about. And if you are driving home, don't. We'll just watch the video a little bit later, but we'll see what's going. All right, Mark Walsh says, our running backs aren't good, any of them. We should have done a better job at evaluation. All year it's been weak. Yeah, I'm not worried about that because they won the game. Ole Miss is not playing all the running backs that they evaluated, but the running back situation right now, they have to figure out how to run the football. And Ulysses Bentley having only 5 carries today, that was, again, problematic at least. Michael Speck says, I don't think we're getting a lot for our money. We're 6-2. We're right where we need to be at the moment. So we'll see. Amy Foster, I'm going crazy with all the holding going on against us. It's not being called. Princely got a sack while being held. I saw that as well. I know that exact play that you're talking about, Amy. Ole Miss is not getting the benefit of any calls right now because of the faking injuries thing. Ole Miss, to its credit, did not fake injuries today. Okay? Oklahoma faked injuries today. Ole Miss did not fake injuries today. And because of the fake injuries, they found out in that LSU game, LSU was holding nearly every play. It wasn't being called because Ole Miss wasn't getting the benefit of the doubt from the referees. Just kind of is what it is. James Mendoza, hopefully Nolan is going to be okay. Yeah, we'll have to see how that looks, but we probably won't find out until next Saturday during warmups. Dart is horrible. He's the weak link. That's not true. Dart played pretty well today, although he slid twice in positions where he should have ran, and it was weird. Perkins is a 5-star for a reason. I think he's the best defensive player we have, period. He was unbelievable today. He was SEC Player of the Week level today, and he should win every award that is available to players right now. Absolutely nuts how good Suntarine Perkins was today. He has turned into the monster that Ole Miss fans all hoped he would be. And now they're starting to figure out a way to get him on the field with Princely and Umanmielen. And those guys it's a long day for offensive linemen when those guys are on the field. I think Princely has 6 sacks now, and Suntarine probably, I think, has 7 or 8 sacks at the moment. So it's pretty nuts. None of this really matters. Georgia will beat Ole Miss. Season's over. Jay, if you really think that, you probably shouldn't be in here, bud. Honestly. Oklahoma won the first half. Congrats to Ole Miss for a good second half and a win. Thank you, James Parchman. Yeah, it was got pretty hairy in the first half. Ole Miss made some mistakes. In the second half, Ole Miss looked like Ole Miss. Defense did a great job in the second half. Yeah, they were a mess. They were a menace, an absolute menace. Dart threw for 311 yards in this game, and he completed like 14 of his last 16 passes. Everybody that is looking for Jaxson Dart to be what he was in the non-conference game don't realize what this team is and what the offense was programmed to do in this game. Jaxson Dart played a perfect game today. I will say that again for people that don't hear me. Jaxson Dart, other than 2 slides that were randomly done, Jaxson Dart played a perfect game for what was needed for Ole Miss football to win this game and to be this defensive-led team that we've been talking about for 3 weeks. He did exactly what I asked him to do, everything down to the minute. It was absolutely fantastic. Signed the squirrel to NIL, best run of the day. Time to put those rose-colored glasses away. That offense will not win in Fayetteville. The offense doesn't have to win in Fayetteville. See, this is the point. People don't get it. The offense doesn't have to do that. If the offense plays exactly like they did in the second half, they are going to beat Arkansas because Arkansas is not going to score enough points to beat Ole Miss. Period. People need to understand that. It's not rose-colored glasses. It's the truth. And I speak the truth and only the truth. Lane Kiffin is never going to have a disciplined team when it comes to penalties. Yeah, Ole Miss versus playing a clean football game is the rivalry of the season. When Ole Miss plays clean, they win. When they don't, they lose. Period. Archie is the better overall team. Oh. See. Going to the starred list here. Sorry about this. Let's see. Why is our first offensive drive so good, then it goes downhill? Braves Red. That's because of a script, honestly. The first 15 plays of the game is previewed over the season, over the practice week. And Ole Miss practices those plays. They drill those certain things. They're designed to see exactly what the Oklahoma defense is going to do and immediately attack their weaknesses. And because of that, you see some success. Now, I see some people talking all the time about how Charlie Weiss is the problem and Lane Kiffin is No, on this show, we do not do bad offense equals Charlie Weiss, good offense equals Lane Kiffin. They both get all the credit. They both get all the blame. And today they deserve a lot of credit. I think that game plan was pretty close to perfect offensively. And I will tell anybody that. James York says, we did what we had to do for that W, and that's all that matters. Keep doing that, and we will go to the playoffs. And that's been the goal all year. Yeah, if Ole Miss wins, they're in, period. Charles Vault, Dart looked lost without Harris in the first half. No, not really. It's just he had to get into the mindset of exactly what he said. He did not. It's not that he looked lost. It was just it was different than what had been being done. And he had a couple passes dropped. I think Daquan Wright dropped a pass. I think a couple other players dropped. So, yeah, it was fine. It was fine. Patrick Kellum, did Pettis opt out? Reported he let coaches know right before the game. I do not know. If he did, it was silly because he's past his fourth game this year. Will Diggs return next week? He should. I think that's the first week that if he plays the last 4 games, his red shirt's still going to be on tag. So we'll have to find out at what exactly Logan Diggs, what position he is in. So we'll see exactly what happens. And that's from Mark in St. Louis. Trent says, I did not realize we actually have tight ends. Yeah, it was really nice. I was so happy to see Ole Miss running 12 personnel in this football game. So happy to see that. That was kind of everything. He did underthrow Juice. That was a touchdown. I wish that they would do some different stuff. They tried to do some stuff for Juice Wells. Oklahoma sniffed it out on that 4th down. That 4th down was bad. That was just bad football. Braves Red, Dart is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. We're in luck. He wears goofy clothes, though. Yeah, when he is in a rhythm, the way he was in the second half of that game, he is very, very good. But everybody needs to adjust their expectations. This is not a 600-yard per game offense this year. It's just not. We're 8 games into the season. Everybody can see what they are. But this isn't a 400-yard to game defense either. So they're going to hem some stuff up. Ole Miss needs to do what they can to win the short game a little bit. And if they can do that, they will be all right. They will be absolutely all right. Anyway, congratulations to everybody for the big win. Ole Miss is in good shape. They have a game in Fayetteville. It's a game they can win. It's a game they're going to be favored to win. Arkansas has a really good offense. Bobby Petrino is a really good offensive coordinator, but it's going to be important for Ole Miss to kind of take care of business in that game. Arkansas is a team, if everybody can remember, last year, Ulysses Bentley was instrumental in defeating that team. Ole Miss, using their offense and getting creative, they're going to be okay in that game. We'll have to see how it goes. I hope everybody is safe heading back home tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the game. And I hope everybody is watching the good games that are on TV right now. We're going to talk about the Arkansas Razorbacks starting Monday all week. And tomorrow night, we'll have the reaction roundtable with people talking about what is going on. So we'll see exactly how that goes. I hope, like I said, I hope everybody is healthy and happy, essentially. And we'll talk to you Monday. Take care. Hotty toddy.